It's another dope conversation up ahead on Key Africans Unlocked. Now, because Zubs and I find ourselves in the media and entertainment space, there's so many things that we get called. I mean, sometimes people call us podcasters, we're cool with that. Recording artists when we do music. And in my case, I find myself often being referred to as a journalist. And I've never seen myself as one, but I have great respect for journalists. My dad was a journalist, went to college, got the qualification, and practiced journalism. And so did our guest on this episode of Key Africans Unlocked. Incidentally, he went to the same college as my dad, but like 30 years later. Kaunda Chama, those close to him call him K, and you might have called him Biggie at some point in your life because he was the voice of Big Brother Africa. We spoke about a lot of things, including the United States' influence on Africa, how Kaunda became the voice of Big Brother, parenthood, and a lot more. So get ready for another great conversation. And action. Key Africans Unlocked, we are back, and it feels good to be back.
Man, it feels good to be back. It feels so good to be back. I've been good, man.
Yeah.
I've been good. It feels like ages.
It does, man. It does. But we're not rusty, man, because we're ever ready.
Yeah, we're ever ready.
Yeah.
I think being rusty is for people who are pressed for time.
Yeah.
We're never pressed for time. We take our time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's no need to worry about rusty vibes.
So we're back now with a man who we've been trying to get on the pod for a while. Look at him smiling. It's the truth, and he knows it. Kaunda Chama, who Kaunda is, well, a seasoned journalist, but he's got so many layers to him, and we're going to try and peel some of those off during the chat today.
Yeah.
One of the words that comes to mind, circling you, and you might kind of have a shocked look on your face, is pioneer. And we might touch on this later, but Pioneer, look at you. No, but because before there was Touch HD, before there was Cliff Central, there was Rhythm100 Radio about more than 10 years ago, before anyone was venturing into internet radio and things of that sort. But we might touch that later on. But welcome to Key Africans Unlocked, bro. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, guys, for having me on. It's an honor to be in the presence of two African greats.
Ha!
Wow.
Two African greats, you know.
That is the right thing to say.
No, for real. I mean, like, you guys, your personal brands are like, remarkable.
Thank you, bro.
I basically admire you guys,
No, thanks, man. Now, you have a podcast of your own. So, firstly, man, how does it feel, man, like being the guest on somebody else's pod?
It's strange because I'm usually the guy that's firing all the questions and, kicking the intro in and on today's show, blah, blah, blah. But now I actually feel better. I feel more relaxed. There's no pressure on me.
No, there's none.
I just answer questions. I don't have to think about what the questions are.
There's never pressure on us either. What we do is we just we set it all up, we press record, and then, hey, man, whatever happens. Yeah, we have fun with it, you know? Especially with like when we sitting down with our people, when it's one of our own and we're having a good time, it's like no pressure whatsoever, just a nice chilled out conversation, bro.
I love that. Chilled out and conversation is my kind of thing.
Now, some people might recognize your voice because at some point you were Big Brother.
Oh, yeah.
You were Biggie.
I was Biggie. Actually,
should we? Okay, we're gonna go back, but maybe because a lot of times that Big Brother's on. I get asked that. Are you Big Brother? And I've never been. Weirdly, what your brothers might not know, I was once asked to be in the show, like to be.
What do you mean, like a contestant?
Like
to
a
be a contestant. Yeah.
Wow.
I was once asked to be that, so it was an obvious and quick no.
From you or from Carol?
me.
Because at this point, we're not sure where the no came from.
Let's keep it real.
Let's keep it 100.
It's easy to kind of anticipate
That it was going to be a no.
So from my side, it's no. Yeah,
I've actually thought about being a contestant on a show.
Really?
Yeah, a reality show like Big Brother type thing. Maybe Survivor or like Amazing Race.
Amazing Race, yeah.
I always wondered, would it be good to be on one of those shows, or would it be?
You know what I always
terrible to be on one
figured,
of
like
those?
with Amazing Race, do you have to get your visas sorted? Because I mean, the
Obviously,
countries are
yeah.
a surprise. You know
Yeah,
what I
of
mean?
course.
But then
Yeah.
if the countries are a surprise, then like okay, obviously it's different because it's being filmed in the US. But but for brothers like us who need to get visas for certain countries,
Yeah, that wouldn't let-
that's
they
a
would-
big
they-
clue. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
can
you
we have
wouldn't
your
be a
passport, okay, and then you get we got a Ghanaian visa, so we're definitely going to Ghana. You know?
Look, I would love to be on something like Amazing Race, but I always wonder. I've seen couples damn near bite each other's heads off.
Yeah,
You're
Amazing
always
Race,
late.
yeah.
You do this, and I thought, do I really think? Because I got bad habits.
Yeah.
At the end of that show, I might be single. Okay, babes, let's do this Amazing Race thing. By the end of Amazing Race, because I've been so late and made us lose, I'm like single.
Yeah, you're on Tinder. All of a sudden,
all of a sudden I'm
swiping left.
Where else?
Swipe left.
But back to Big Brother, man. What was that like?
That was a great experience for me. First of all, it came very unexpectedly because I was just chilling, minding my own business. And then a friend of mine calls me up and says they're auditioning for Big Brother voices and they're really looking for a new voice that nobody can recognize. That just went to show you how unexposed I was.
Like it's super green.
Super green.
You weren't like a Chilu out there.
I know, man.
One of these voices that are instantly recognizable.
I'm still not like a Chilu.
Wow.
That's how real it gets, right? So anyway, fast forward, I'm like, okay, cool. Plus, I could use the extra cash,
Of course.
So I go to the auditions, and the first thing I noticed, it looked like one of those Hollywood sets where guys were holding clipboards and filling in the details and everything. And 3 other people, I won't mention their names, were Chilu Lemba type levels. Yeah.
Okay.
People.
Yeah.
There were stars in the field.
There were stars in the
Big
field.
names in the field.
And Kaunda's thinking,
It's rough.
this is rough. I don't know if I'm gonna make this, right? So, but I'm like, this is what I do. I'm a hustler, babe. I fill it in, blah blah blah.
I just want you to know.
Boom, boom. And I go in, and then they have this. They tell you what Big Brother's about. You watch Big Brother, and the sad part is I never used to watch Big Brother before.
Yeah.
I knew what it was,
Yeah.
and I knew the context. So when I knew I was going for the audition, thank goodness for YouTube, I watched a couple of episodes and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it's about. Okay, wow. So I get there, and when you sign your clipboard, they take you in, and they do a mock diary session.
Oh, wow.
So they just bring in somebody.
Random.
Then there's a lady, and she's pretending that she's missing her child, and she wants to go home. And you have to take on the persona of Big Brother and convince her to stay in the house.
Oh, wow. And are you freestyling this?
Yeah,
or
you're freestyling this.
They don't brief you and say, maybe try this angle, try that angle. It's all up to you.
No script. It's up to you. They give you the scenario, and the person walks in. And for me, it was this lady, and she just wanted to go home. And now, with Big Brother, you speak about yourself in third person. So they're judging a lot of things at the same time.
Yeah.
How you refer to yourself, how you engage this person. And so, I did the session. I thought it went well. Actually, the lady who came in as the test subject was working behind the scenes. So later on, she actually told me that, that you got the job right after we did our session.
Oh, really?
They were just like,
That's
this is
him.
the
That
guy.
is him.
Yeah.
And
That
I didn't
is
know.
Big Brother.
I was worried. So I go home, and I even forgot about it. Because, being in the voice game, you do sometimes a lot of auditions, and then you never hear from the people or whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought it was one of those things. I'm like, oh, okay. Then it was a Sunday, I remember, and my wife and I back then, we just had the one baby. That was 2008. She was like a year and a bit. So you're exhausted as parents of a year-old child. Chilling on a Sunday. The voice rings, and it's Endemol, and they're like, "Hey, Kaunda, would like to offer you the Big Brother thing," and I put my Billy D. Williams persona on. I'm like, oh, really? Hold on a second. And I cover my phone and I scream, babes, I got the gig! Then I go back on the phone. Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. It's crazy. Like, thank you very much. Okay, so I come in tomorrow? Oh, okay. Thank you very much, ladies. I appreciate it. Click. Yes!
Celebrations!
I was dancing around the room, picked up my baby.
Wow.
Daddy's Big Brother, baby. it was fantastic.
Big Father is Big Brother.
Yeah, exactly. Big Father is Big Brother.
And
Wow.
That's how I got in. It was just like, imagine a friend just calling you, dude, you might be able to do this. And you go there, you get this audition. And
incredible. That was meant to be for you.
Yeah.
I find that with when I go for auditions and stuff, as I walk in, there's almost like a comfort that as you walk in, you're comfortable doing this thing. As you're doing it, you also feel good doing it. And even as you leave, it's not like you've gotten it, but it doesn't feel like, oh, well, forget that. You know what I mean? Like, you almost feel like, that was good. Yeah, that was good. Yeah. And clearly, when they know that you are the guy, instantly, they know you're the guy.
But see, that's the thing is, like, a number of people who are listening might not even realize that we audition because they see you on a bunch of things and they kind of think that your life does not involve you being in front of people and auditioning for stuff. Which is our reality. I was reading a book by Bryant Cranston, Walter White.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was saying when he auditions, because it used to get to him, like, if he didn't get the role, he'd be in a bad mood and so on. So what he started doing was when he auditioned, he'd get the script, and then he had a bin in his house for the scripts straight after auditioning. Yeah. And him throwing it in there was symbolically letting himself know to let it go.
Okay.
And then he says when they called him back, then he'd go back into the bin.
Oh, wow.
Digging past.
So, like, that's his process, So, yeah, interesting. But, you did a good job there, man.
No, you did an amazing job.
And it was secretive, so you couldn't tell anybody that you were Biggie.
There were certain rules. Like, first of all, I couldn't leave the province for those 3 months because I had to be on standby 24/7.
I was going to ask about that.
So there were certain instances, I'll get into one when you ask about it, where I had to rush back to the studio, and it was a bit hectic. But I wasn't allowed to tell anybody that I was Big Brother. So it was like I was working for the FBI or something. So, like, my wife asked me, where are you going, babe? I work for...
that thing.
That
thing that I work for.
I work for UPS. Just deliver packages. So... But the funny thing is, even as we work with our voices, and we think we can disguise them, but we can't.
Nah, there's no
disguising. So people that knew me, that watched Big Brother, knew it. Like, I got a call from my mom. I got a call from my sister. You're Big Brother, right? Yeah. And I'm like, no. Of course you are. I know you anywhere, because... It's not as if they change up the voice, like, this is Big Brother. I just had to go there and, like, this is Big Brother.
Yeah.
So, Chilu,
there's it.
Please report to the diary room. And then you're like, oh, okay. I'm like, man, we know that's you.
Yeah, it's you. It's you.
Yeah, so a few people knew it was me.
Yeah. And
though, close family members, I told them, yeah, it's me. Other people, I'll be like, nah, probably Chilu.
No. You know what's funny? Guys who aren't, particularly in tune with the voices and stuff generalize, I think, in their minds. So I only knew that Big Brother was on every year when I started getting those questions. Are you Big Brother?
Are you Big Brother?
And for me it was, because, that's the honest truth. Nope. Nope.
Well,
and after a while, it was like, hey, this is Big Brother. When the season was over, we post photos of Kaunda, like, I know Big Brother.
And you're, I know Biggie.
Yeah, but it was a great experience. It actually taught me how it would be if I had 12 children. Because, like, that house it's tiny. You remember, you got a small kitchen, small living room.
Before you continue, my dad had 12 children.
So it made me realize how it was to be Chilu's dad.
Now we know what it was like to be Chilu's pops. Kaunda, what was it like being Chilu's dad?
Let me tell you. No, because the Big Brother house.
Yeah,
you can actually tell when you watch the competition or the season. It's really small. You got the boys' room, you got the girls' room, you got the diary room.
Yeah.
You got the shower, you got the bathroom, you got the loo. Then you got the kitchen. It's really tiny. It's sort of like a house that is fit for, like, a family of one. Mom, dad, and a kid. They could live in that Big Brother house. Now imagine you got 12 people in there.
Yeah.
Squeezed into
6
one
girls, 6 boys, squeezed into one small area, and they start. Because they're not allowed outside contact, right? You got to remember that. And the only other people they know are the other 11. And remember, from the second week, so the first week is the non-elimination round. Then they start eliminating from the second week.
Yeah.
and it's just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until like eventually there's just 3 of them.
Yeah.
But they've got no contact to the outside world. They've got no cell phones. They watch no TV. They don't read newspapers. And I think a significant thing that happened when I was Big Brother was when they went in, Thabo Mbeki was president of South Africa, and when they came, some of them came out, it was Jacob Zuma. So you can imagine, they didn't know that had happened.
Like, what the?
You know what I'm saying? And so you become...
Imagine going in there and you're like, yeah, I know my president, I know my country. What do you mean? I know home. You come out of there, you're like, what? Where am I?
It's the craziest thing, and I'm thank goodness they still don't really put presidents on the money. Because you come out and you got this old cash that you stashed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Mbeki money? Nah, sorry, man, we don't use
work
that
no
anymore.
more.
But you got a point, because on the more recent one, I know that when Maki 2, Zambian rapper, was in there.
Yeah.
Then Michael Sata passed away. And Maki 2 was like one of Sata's
Preferred entertainers.
Yes,
okay.
yes. Let's put it that way. And I remember guys thinking, so are they gonna like make an exception and you know like let him know and whatnot? And
They didn't. They probably didn't.
No, they can't.
didn't.
It's against the rules.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you signed that off as well, so you can't hold it against them.
Yeah.
It's against the rules. I think the only extreme would be like a close family member's funeral where they would consider that.
Yeah, I suppose like a father or you know.
Father, sister, brother, mother, that kind of thing.
But not someone being promoted or being given a new position.
No, they wouldn't do that. So like I was saying, you become their only outside contact. And then because they can offload onto you all their problems and everything.
Yeah. So they
you
sincerely
really become
offloading.
like their big brother or their dad or whatever.
Like a shrink.
So and I got to know so much about the personality of these people, and I got to play part in squashing beefs, sometimes creating situations. So Chilu, what do you think of Zab's shorts, though? He's kind of cute, though. Yeah, okay, but
kind of cute.
You could create situations. Then Chilu realizes, hey, actually, Zab's shorts
That
are
is
kinda
so
hot.
dope. And the producers knew that you had this power.
Because I'm sure they used to feed you some of that. They prompt you maybe.
Yes,
to
because
say,
what happened is we would try and build storylines, and I know I'm giving away some of the
Secrets
here, but it's not like secrets. I'm no longer obligated. So we would see that so Rico likes Sheila, but Sheila likes Taekwondo. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I think Sheila's not picking it up, so we're gonna ask Sheila what she thought about what Rico did. Then it will plant a seed. We would actually build on storylines, and some of them were even confrontational. Because like, if you and Zab say are housemates, wow, that would be great. We should do Big Brother.
that actually might be
African brothers.
African brothers.
We're practically housemates already. Let me tell you. We see each other pretty much. You might as well live in the same house.
So if you guys were like really getting at each other during the day or during the week, whatever, Big Brother would ask you something like, Chilu, Big Brother would like to know, was there anybody who was agitating you today? But you forget, because now when you live in that house, the cameras start to disappear.
Right. You forget
and
they're
you just
there.
start thinking you're living. And you're forgetting that I'm watching you. All I'm doing is planting that seed to see what you're going to say. And you just start offloading. Zabs, I just woke up this morning and he starts laughing at me because I don't know the capital cities of the world. And he says I'm dumb. And da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And how does that make you feel? And you start building on that. And then when you go back, maybe you confront Zabs and you create this great content for people. Yeah. So a lot of it was freestyle because I think that house brings out a different kind of you after a couple of weeks. So the housemates just start making their own stories and things just start happening. But initially, you sort of like have to do a bit of poking. And, there's lots of them. And initially they're aware of the cameras, so they're trying to be all diplomatic. How's everybody?
Morning, everyone. Did everyone sleep good?
That kind
what
of
a beautiful
stuff.
day.
Yeah. And then after a
day
while,
17.
you're like, hey, I can't
Don't ask me how
stand
the hell I'm
you.
doing.
Yeah.
You're messy. Your socks are everywhere. And then it starts becoming real. But
That's amazing because that's like regular human being relationships.
Yeah.
When you start out, it's always your best foot forward.
Yeah.
You always want to, come across likable. You want to be liked. After a while, it's like, you know what? It's too much effort to be liked.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be me.
After month 1, that's when you're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. Indeed.
But this thing of planting seeds, I'll be quick with it.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good.
Because there's a radio station I used to work for, and one of the most popular programs at some point became like an agony aunt type program where people write in, she answers from a point of view and stuff. But I remember when that program started, like first 2 weeks or 3 weeks, there were no letters. So they kept calling for, people to write letters. But instead of just saying, we've got no content, the boss wrote like a bunch of letters from our office, different scenarios. And that's what was on that lady's desk. And she was answering those questions, Before you knew it, like real letters were coming, like real situations flooded.
Exactly.
Just that thing of, it's like a media secret, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I think also when it's anything to do with user-generated content or that kind of loop that exists in your content creation, initially before you kind of get into stride, you do have to kind of jig the system a bit. Even if it means just, having people on set contribute questions or people as part of the team contribute questions or whatever. But with something like Big Brother, it's live, people are watching it unfold. As they watch it, they have questions. And modern technology, even then with SMSs, you can communicate literally as it happens. Now even worse, with tweets. And I want to move away from Big Brother and let's start talking more about the basketball stuff. Because you're involved with the NBA. Now, I was
Yes, indeed.
Let's start with what role you play with NBA. Is it NBA Africa or is it NBA in general? What is it?
Well, my official position, I'm one of the editors on NBA.com, but I'm one of the editors for the African edition.
Oh, awesome.
So it's NBA collectively. It's the same company. There's no NBA and NBA Africa. There's just the African office of NBA.
Of the NBA. Okay.
So it is the NBA. Where me and my partner Cyrus, we are the editors for the African edition of NBA.com.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so your involvement began with this angle in the NBA, or did you have
No. How I started was I was working in corporate as the PR manager of Business Connection, a system integrator company in South Africa. And then I wasn't happy there for one reason or the other. Maybe I'm just not supposed to be in corporate. So a friend of mine told me an agency called EXP, just make it quick, was looking for an account director to handle the public relations for the NBA across the continent.
Right.
And I was like, that sounds like me. and that's how I got involved, in 2013.
Yeah.
I joined that company and then I started doing public relations for the NBA. And I did it until 2016. So I was in there for 13, 14, 15, 16, so 4 years. Until the end of 2016. I did for 4 years. So I traveled with the NBA across the continent, organized interviews, and was part of events and launching this and that and the third, and a big part of launching their junior NBA leagues, which are now in about 13 countries or so. So that's how I got connected to the NBA. Now, how I now became the editor was that before a company called SuperSport, am I allowed to say?
Of course.
Yeah.
You have to say anything.
Was because I don't want to be
say
giving free advertising.
It
was handling the website, and Cyrus, who's now the other editor, was working at SuperSport, and I always hollered at him and said, I'm a journalist by profession, so if there's ever an opportunity, let a brother know. Then, obviously, at the end of the SuperSport contract, the now Zimbabwean billionaire philanthropist businessman Strive Masiwa, who owns.
You said that very sequentially.
Yeah.
Zimbabwean billionaire.
Well, you got to know who you're dealing with here. So he had a great idea that he wanted to launch a Pan-African entertainment platform, and they launched what is now called as Kwese. So Kwese Channels, which owns Kwese Media, which is part of Econet Media, which owns Kwese Channels, which owns Kwese Sports. Now, as part of Kwese Sports' deal, it got the rights to NBA across the continent, which includes the website. And then, so I noticed that Cyrus moved over from SuperSport and went to Kwese to continue editing the website. And then I hit him up again, like, yo, Cy, what did it do? And then he was like, oh, haha. I'm glad you called. Then I realized they had an opening for another editor, and I went for interviews, and it was actually nice because I've loved basketball since I was a kid, and then loved the NBA since I was a kid, and the interview was quite nice. So what do you know about the NBA? I'm like, oh, really?
Where do I start?
crack.
What era would you like me to talk to you about?
Let's do this.
Let's talk about this in eras.
And yeah, it was a great interview. I remember I spoke to a woman called Bridget Bacos, and we had this great interview. And I made it, as you would know, to get the position. And then that's when I now started doing what I really always wanted to do with the NBA, and that's writing about it for the website, and also doing some video content for the league. And it's been great. I started at the beginning of 2017 as one of the editors, and now, it's more than a year later, almost 2 years now. It's been going great.
What's great about the story that you're talking about now is that you are a trained journalist.
Yep.
And journalism for you is a profession. It's a passion as well. It's a vocation almost. Like you were built for this. You were made for this thing. That you were able to marry your love for basketball and your skills as someone who's trained in it, and all of that come together into a career in journalism is a beautiful story to tell. Because a lot of journalist friends I know are trying to find other avenues of exploring how to make a living, how to express their passions, because journalism is no longer viewed in their eyes with the advent of blogs, social media. It's no longer viewed as a viable career option, let alone something to be passionate about.
Yeah, look, times have changed. I mean, I was talking to Will on the way here about how certain careers...
Will Smith? You know Will Smith?
I was going to say.
No.
Tell us about the bungee jump.
Actually, it's my brother, Will.
Oh, okay.
We came here together.
By the way, Will is right there, just off camera.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Will Smith, though.
Yeah, big shout out to Will Smith.
Yeah.
50, bro.
Yeah, wow. The Fresh Prince is 50.
Yo, that's crazy, right? It's not Uncle
inspiring.
Phil who's bungee jumping. It's Will.
It's Will. Wow.
Amazing. Anyway, you're
so
talking to the other Will. Our
I
Will.
was talking to our Will and telling him that, there's certain careers that are going to be there 20, 30 years from now that don't even exist at the moment.
Right.
And if you go 30 years back and somebody told you there's going to be a social media manager, you'd have been like, what? Because Facebook wasn't that big. Instagram didn't exist, neither did Twitter. So I think it's the same thing, especially because journalism is such a fickle career. People think all we did as journalists was go to school and learn how to write English, and then we were given jobs. They don't know that there's political science in there, economics, there's all sorts of things, photography.
Yeah.
We do so much. But I've seen it change over the years, especially with the digitization. I mean, I'm going to show you my age here. I mean, I'm 43. So I come from the era of where we were using typewriters originally.
Yeah.
And then people used to have to print things and actually strip them and cut with, before desktop publishing became a thing.
Yep.
I've seen it where people are actually stripping and cutting with newspapers and putting things there and magnifying pictures and all that. And fast forward, citizen journalism has become a big thing where you can put up a blog and you can show up at all the events that I show up at, and you write them as just Chilu. And because you write well, people don't realize you're just a writer. You're not a journalist. You understand what I mean? So people think journalism is like, if you can write, you're a journalist. They don't view it as a proper career where you went to school and learned something.
I hear that,
which is kind of tricky. But back to what you were talking about, like for me, I praise God every day because I've had two waves in my life, and Chilu will let you know. I like gadgets and technology.
Nice.
And for about 10 to 13 years, I worked in the IT business space. And I also wrote about gadgets, cell phones, laptops. I mean, I remember back in the days when Chilu still trusted me, he would call me. He would call me like, yo.
What do you think about?
I got this MacBook Pro. And I've got this Acer notebook, and they're about the same price. But which one would you recommend? I see he doesn't do that anymore. Either.
No, man, now I'd be calling you like, so Lebron.
Yeah, he's like, I'm thinking Yeezys or the new Nike Air Force.
The Air Force.
Like, wow, I went from a tech guru to a guy who has to curate sneakers.
Actually, I've actually got a fetish for sneakers. So
yeah, that's all you post on social media.
No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with sneakers, guys.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong.
but yeah, that's probably where I'd be calling you about now.
So yeah,
so that was a different wave.
That was a different wave where I wrote about technology and I learned technology and I wrote about technology as well. I worked for like Computing SA, Brainstorm. You know, I worked for CRN, and those are technology publications. Some are still here, some are not. But writing about technology from different angles and loving technology, that was marrying one of my passions with my educational qualifications.
Sure.
And then from there, I did public relations, which was painful. I think public relations is one of the most difficult jobs. People think it's easy, but it is difficult, both at corporate or agency level. If I could, I would avoid it for the rest of my life. But that's a different story for another day. But now, basketball.
Yeah.
My love for basketball. Can I go into my love for basketball? I'm stealing this podcast.
No, you can. You can. But
it's your pod today, bro.
I'm gonna just 20 seconds of this because the two passions being married with your qualification and stuff might give somebody the impression that you've that's all you've been doing. Like you've just been lucky enough to have a sweet spot intersection. Whereas if you rewind, if I'm correct, at some point you were doing like stories for a community paper.
Oh yeah, my journalism story is crazy. If I go back when I first arrived in South Africa, I actually was doing part-time lecturing at a private college. I was lecturing basic reporting, public relations. Oh, was it public relations?
Public relations.
And photography. And photography. And then I got a job in a city east of Johannesburg called Benoni.
Yeah.
And I worked for a community newspaper.
That's what came to mind.
It was called the first one was called the Sunbeam, which used to go to the black areas on the East Rand.
Sunbeam.
I know there was once the sun, and then there was the beam, and then they it does sound like a floor polish. Yeah. Well, there was once the sun and the beam, and then they married the two, and they became the Sunbeam. Somebody had a bright idea.
Yeah.
You know where I went with that.
Beam sun. Beam sun, beam.
Beam sun. So the Sunbeam, when I joined it, was on its last legs, and I was lucky enough when they closed it down. The bigger paper, the Benoni City Times, somehow I had impressed the editor there, the editor-in-chief, Hillary Green. I remember her name. She said, okay, no, they're closing down the Sunbeam, but we really like the work you've been doing. Do you want to join us? So I joined the Benoni City Times, and I worked there for about 2 years. That was like 97, 8, yeah. And then 99, I saw this advert in the paper that they were looking for IT business writers. And that's when I applied to join Times Media, which became Jonic, and then TML, which became Times Media, which became Jonic. And that's how I moved out of the community space. But I'm glad I had to start from the bottom, because in community, you're just a guy. You do photographs, you do interviews, you do vox pops, you write, you sub your own work most of the time. You really have to learn, come from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And then even when I joined the business media space, I was a junior reporter. So I also had to work myself up from junior reporter to sectional editor to overall publication editor. So it was a lot of years of just, cutting my teeth and getting to know the industry and that kind of stuff. So a lot of people would be like, wow, man, since I saw you in high school, you loved basketball. Then you became a journalist. Yeah. And now you're a journalist at the NBA. Man.
Yeah.
So they forget that there's
that whole
journey.
Yeah. 15 to 20 years in between that brought me to the point I'm at now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Where you know, I've done so many things, even in my private capacity. Between that, you know, tried to launch online social media platforms. There was one time me and my partners thought we could compete against Facebook. It's another story. Then we tried to, you know, me and some other partners tried to do this online radio station thing. Well, we did it, but you know, that didn't go too successful. And back to now, like I must say, I'm blessed in that I started playing basketball when I was about 15 years old. And I started watching NBA since I was like 10 years old. That was 1985. Incredible. And to come to now where I actually work with one of the biggest, if not the biggest basketball league in the world as an editor of its biggest platform on the continent, it's a blessing for real.
That is powerful stuff, man. I think one of the things that is slept on, and I'm speaking to Chilu as well here, is just how the influence of the US to a lot of us here on the continent has not only shaped how we see the world and our outlook on life in general, but has given us an opportunity to express ourselves in life. You know what I mean? Like to contribute to the continent, to be actively engaged in building the continent and growing its people. I mean, the fact that the NBA and basketball of all things, probably Michael Jordan specifically, like Chicago Bulls maybe, has shaped a Kaunda and millions of others in Africa to building stories and narratives that have just literally changed the face of the continent. I think that's a powerful influence that country as a continent, maybe let's call it a country, not a continent. How America has actually had an impact on Africa, you know?
Yeah.
And me personally, coming from my own personal perspective, is done that with hip-hop music. That's what it was for me. Hip-hop music literally, via the US, right? Shaped my life.
Yeah.
Created my reality and gave me an avenue to express myself and explore my full potential as an African.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for a guy who's never even set foot on American soil to be saying that, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's interesting because especially from people who might not understand that. Because similarly, I mean, hip hop has played a critical role. Before you guys came, I was rapping to, well, the lyrics were coming into my mind. Rakim, Microphone Fiend.
I love that song.
Yeah, and I'm saying the title. You guys know the lyrics.
Yeah.
I've never even like had this conversation, but we're on the same page. Is what I'm trying to illustrate. And guys who don't understand that, looking from the outside in, will paint people, you know, who've had that experience with one brush. I mean, like in Zambia, they used to call guys mayo.
Yes,
because all they do is like yo, you know,
Chongololos.
Those
Yo.
yos.
Chongololos. They had names for us on everywhere, bro. Every country. I mean, Mayo, what's up, my man? You know, it's just so many.
Yeah,
it was many.
You know, but it's beautiful if you look at it. The influence that the United States has had from a cultural perspective. I mean, I look at the way we dress. Look at the way people talk, their mentality. I mean, just look at what. First of all, hip hop as a whole. If you look at everything from b-boying, which we used to call breakdancing, graffiti. If you look at the poetry, the rhyming aspect, obviously hip hop didn't invent rhyming, but it invented rhyming in that way. You look at DJing, scratching, and mixing, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just if you look at just culture now, how much of that is, you know, is in culture. Even if you look at the way a simple hip hop phrase, which was invented by a young kid from New Orleans, the word bling.
Right.
It just how bling became part of, like, so even corporates would use the word bling in some of their messages. Bring out the bling here, bling there. Look at how wearing like baggy jeans was a thing in the 90s.
How can I?
You know, cross colors, you know, that kind of stuff. Just look at the sneaker culture. That all came from, you know, the United States and that. The way people talked, the way people walked. I mean, how many times, I mean, I walk around the malls and the streets now, and I see people wearing New York Yankees caps.
Yeah.
And some people don't even know what they're about, with all due respect. Yeah. But they just love the way that NY.
No, the design is killer. I've got like two of those, and I can't name one player from,
And it's funny that there's a gentleman who came from the States who works at the NBA office in Africa. His name's Don Chaney. So he, in his first couple of weeks, he was like, "So, Kaunda, tell me, what's with these New York Yankee fans in South Africa? What's happening?" And I had to break it down to him. Whoa. Actually, they're not New York Yankee fans. They just
think the cap is cute.
The cap.
Yeah, they just think the cap is cute. That's it.
It's sort of like even the LA Raiders cap back in the days.
But the LA Raiders one doesn't look. I mean, there's that squiggly thing with the Yankees one. Yeah. The Lakers one has a.
There was that LA.
It's boring.
It's different, but the way that N and the Y,
there's just something about it. Yeah,
it looks dope.
Yeah,
and that's, I think it's the same. It's the same for like the Wu-Tang emblem, for example, or the Nike swish. Whatever. Sometimes people don't subscribe to what the brand even represents. They just think it's a nice logo. But what really makes me feel excited about things like that and the kind of power they've had in a generational sense, and just the scope of it is just what we could do if we reshape the African narrative. Yeah. If we popularize African stories. If we get to a point where we almost doing what the US did to us to ourselves. You know what I mean? And I think that the impact of that could be incredible,
And I think the time's becoming ripe for that kind of thinking.
I agree.
Yeah.
So especially like in the sense of like new media and the types of celebrities that's creating, it's creating, the closer they are to us, the more popular they seem to be, and the closer they are relatable, the more relatable they are, the more poppin' they are, and I think that's something I never had when I was growing up, is I never had someone to look up to who was very similar to me in that sense. Yeah. It was always some rap guy from the Bronx or some actor guy from
You got a point. I mean, I remember back in, say, 91, 92, when we were trying to flip the hip hop that we're doing and try to give it some African anchoring. And the only guy who wasn't as dope or as hip as the other guys, but was making an impact globally, was Dr. Alban with Hello Africa. Tell me how you're doing. Because he had that whole movement happening in Europe, Sweden and whatnot. Yeah. And so he's the only guy that you could think of, like, if I'm gonna dominate the world with hip hop but African sounding, is it gonna be like Albanish?
Is it gonna be too Dr. Alban?
But guys, I like that you brought that up because the time is really now. Yeah. I'll give you two examples. First of all, I was listening to a talk by Akon, superstar Akon, but he's got Senegalese roots. Right. Yeah. So he's very much connected to Africa, and he's got these solar lighting projects that are going up in Senegal and that. And he mentioned something very important. He said, Africa needs to start marketing itself better. Yeah. If you look at a country like the United States, guys, on a real, it's got its own problems.
Big time.
I mean, if I tell people, because I've been to the States a lot of times, I'm dropping situations. It's like I drop names, now I'm dropping situations.
No, you're dropping.
But
facts are facts, man.
Before I went stateside as a youngster for the first time, I never thought there were poor people in the United States. I never thought there were street kids in the United States. Because America markets itself that way and makes itself very attractive. Although it is quite successful, to be honest, right? But Akon says Africa needs to start doing that as well, because all people think when they think of Africa, it's the dark continent. There's poverty, there's HIV, there's this, that, and the third. But there's also a D'banj here and an MI and a WizKid and a Chilu and a Zabs and a Tumi and from the V. You name them. We got actors. Lupita Nyong'o is from East Africa, is she not? A lot of guys even, if you look at Anthony Joshua himself has got Nigerian roots. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Which means
Idris
Elba. Yeah. We've got talent here. We've got the capabilities now. With technology, we can leapfrog certain things that would have kept us back. So I think as Africans, and I'm glad like platforms such as yours, we need to start marketing Africa as this preferred place, which it is, as this place where you can be successful without saying, I'm only going to be successful when I go to the States. I'm only going to be successful when I go to the UK or other parts of Europe. Because what let me know about how representation can make a difference in people's lives is when I took my kids to watch Black Panther.
Yeah, that was
right?
a big deal.
First of all, Black Panther went to show you that Africa can be attractive, as fictitious as Wakanda was. But it made you realize that, wow, we can do that. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
By ourselves, for ourselves. And the fact that I watched my kids get amazed. You know, like when I grew up, to be honest, I was a bit of a comic geek, so I knew Black Panther existed before he became the Black Panther that he is now. But I was a comic geek. We read about the X-Men and all that kind of stuff. So, but my kids hadn't heard that. Of that, and blame myself, because they knew Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Captain America, and without due respect, those are white people, if you will. When they saw the character of T'Challa, and they saw, especially my daughter, when she saw Shuri, who looked like she was 13. And this kid was technologically advanced. Like she was in the lab making things. My daughter was blown away. And my son saw the character of T'Challa, and to this day, he thinks he's the other Black Panther, like flipping on the couches. But it just goes to show you the power of representation.
It really
so I'm smiling with
absolutely
and looking at Zubs. Because I think 2 episodes ago, because what you're saying is universal. 2 episodes ago, I gave a similar statement about my daughter's reaction after watching Black Panther when she had her WhatsApp photo being Shuri's. You see, I didn't even know Shuri's name.
Shuri is a great character.
But and Zubs pulled out his phone, and when he pulled out
that's
his
how
phone,
you know.
we're about to wrap.
I'm checking out the rapid fire questions.
All right.
But before we get there, man, there's two things that I'm gonna touch on what you said about Africa marketing itself better.
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges we face, though, are Bob Geldof and Bono and their budgets.
Yeah.
Because they've got like a bunch of money, not just them, but like a whole lot of people have money which they spend to paint Africa in a certain way so that they can get funding.
Funding, yeah.
And those budgets are huge. So to counter those budgets with good intentions and show like a different side of Africa, it's a problem. It's a problem. I'm just putting it out there.
That is
and I've thought about it like quite a bit. There was a time when I enrolled for an honors degree at Vega, and I was reading up on country branding and all that stuff, and that kept on coming up. That the volume which has been brought about from campaigns by USA for Africa. I mean, like "We Are the World" was a dope song, but I mean those pictures.
They were,
you know what I mean?
They were hard to swallow.
And so to counter that's going to be difficult. I had a second point, but I don't think it's like that deep.
Okay. Before we do rapid fire, great point by the way. Do you have something to say about that or not? Not quite.
Well, I didn't actually understand that it went that deep, but thanks for enlightening. No. You see, Chilu, I know it's real, but now that you've put it in a certain perspective that I didn't look at it that way before. I just thought, okay, people perceive Africa like this because we let CNN and BBC and whatever report about control the narrative. But I didn't know that there was a concerted effort with budget, which I could use, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'll let your boy Bob Geldof.
We could all do with a little bit of budget.
To make sure that we are perceived in a certain way so that people give us the pity pennies.
Yeah.
Bro.
Otherwise, they won't give.
Zubs, allow me this one, because this is a true story.
No, go ahead.
There's a guy, he's since passed away, his name's Chris Mahoney. He used to be a filmmaker, American filmmaker who settled in Zambia. He was saying that there was once when he was filming a European country, I won't mention the name, but a European country had a delegation in Zambia, and they were meant to film some of the works that they'd been carrying out in the country. So they were going to a place called Lilai Lodge, beautiful place. So Chris got there early, set up his cameras, and he set up a camera stand and was meant to pan, like once the entourage arrives in their convoy, he was like, okay, I'm going to film there, then pan the camera from the beautiful Lilai Lodge buildings onto those guys. So as they were coming, as planned, he starts, panning from the beautiful lodge buildings, whatnot, to them. And he says I think it was the ambassador or the delegation leader came straight out of the car to him, shouting, "Turn your effing camera off." Yeah. And he says, "We can't have like good images."
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Chris tells me, so it breaks your heart. But I mean, that's the reality we're dealing with.
Wow.
That is deep, and it does run deep.
Yeah. Anyway.
So anyway, I wanted to say one more thing, if you guys don't mind. Because you're a sports guy, and we're talking about what we're talking about. What was your take on the French national team winning the World Cup? The soccer World Cup.
You mean the African national team winning the World Cup?
Okay. Enough said. I think I know your take already. There's the take already.
Look.
There's the take already.
Look, it was great. And it just goes to show you that Africa does have talent that's up there that can win the World Cup.
Yeah.
I've got my own ideas about the amount of teams that are allowed to participate in the World Cup and how the whole structure is and how they put the groups together. And I think that'll get heavily political, and we might need another
that's going to
podcast
take
for that.
another 2 hours. It's going to need
all
another
I'm going to
2
say
hours.
is that I was glad that an African team won the World Cup for the first time. Big shout out.
You and Trevor Noah get a room.
To Paul Pogba, my man.
Shout out to Paul Pogba.
Big shout out.
You want to say something real quick about that?
No, man.
Because I sure as hell have a lot to say about it too. I think France won the World Cup. I do. I think France won the World Cup, but I think also it's important to recognize how Africa, I won't say helped France win the World Cup, but was instrumental in France winning the World Cup. Because if we do understand that, then we'll understand the next level of Africa's influence globally. We have to start acknowledging the role Africa plays in other countries' greatness.
Yeah.
So let's French flag, no doubt.
Yeah.
But let's also just let's be honest here. Let's recognize what Africa is doing to all of us on this planet.
Absolutely.
How all of us are winning because of Africa.
Yeah.
But that's like a 2-hour conversation for another time.
I mean, half Kenyan. Yes, we can.
I'm just saying. That's an African president right there, right?
Yeah.
But he was the president of
Dopest.
America. There were very few guys more American in their presidency than our African president.
Yeah, there you go.
That's some powerful stuff right there. Okay, so
Yeah.
what we do out here, and I'm sure you know, is we have this section which we call rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
There you go.
And you said it the way we say it.
He says it when we say. So we're gonna jump right straight into it. And I'm gonna start with a very easy one. LeBron James or Kobe Bryant?
Those are two of my favorite players. You just mentioned this. Okay. Currently, I'd say LeBron James, but Kobe in his prime was a beast.
Kobe was amazing.
But I'm with LeBron James.
Okay, nice and simple. You don't have to give why, but if you want, you can. Sound or sight for you?
I'm a visual guy. It's got to be sight.
With your Emporio Money glasses, I'm a visual guy.
And this from a guy who was a voice. Is a voice. I'm saying was a voice of one of the biggest shows on the continent. This from a guy who wakes up at odd hours of the morning to watch a match live
and commentate
so he can have
match.
Yeah, so it's sight.
And you still would choose sight. That's
sight. How would I watch a basketball game with sound? I struggle. Like, you remember back in the days, sorry, it's supposed to be rapid fire, but
it's all good.
How people would sit around a radio set and listen to Dennis Lewewe comment. I was
Dennis
like, I need
Lewewe.
the visuals. I love Dennis, but I need the visuals.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But funny enough, there was, now I'm going everywhere.
Yeah, no,
You know when they say radio is the theater of the mind, right? There was this thing my family used to sit around the radio and listen to every week called
Ifyabukaya on Wednesday
evening. And there was a guy called Joseph Kabwe, the funniest guy you've ever heard.
Yeah.
And then I realized when I saw him that he's the funniest guy you've ever seen, too. But this guy, the way they would script those things was so beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's still sight.
Okay, a good book or a good series, TV series?
Right now, it's a good book. If you had asked me before I had kids, I'd say a good series, but I'm trying to get my daughters and son to read more, so it's a good book.
Okay, fair enough. Game of Thrones is amazing, though. But in terms of productivity for you personally, night or day?
Night. I find the day has got too many distractions for me, especially like right now, I work in an open office plan. I find there are a lot of distractions and things, and the phone rings and the whatever, but at night, it's so peaceful and quiet. I can get more done at night. And I've become a night owl. Obviously, I'm in Africa and I watch NBA games, which come at night. And sometimes I have to write a game report straight after that game. So that's 3, 4 in the morning sometimes. Then sometimes I do live commentary or live analysis because I'm also on the TV part of the NBA situation. So yeah, I find myself to be more productive at night. I'm a bit of a night owl.
Cool. I should hope you be catching up on sleep as well during the day. Surely that's some downtime. You have a podcast of your own. Do you want to share where that is, when that is?
Yeah.
Just real quick before we wrap up.
Real quick, yeah. We, my partner and I, Cyrus Rogers. It sounds like I'm married to the guy. No, he's my business partner, Cyrus Rogers. We've got this podcast. We've actually got it's a Post Up brand. It's called Post Up. You can find us on Instagram at Post Up Podcast and at Post Up Podcast on Twitter. We got a Post Up podcast, which is everything. We talk about everything NBA. We upload it on the NBA.com website every Thursday. We've also got a Post Up show, which we break up into little pieces called Post Up Fast Breaks. And these are little video clips where we either interview players, executives, or we just do analysis of games or the highlights of the week and that. So you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at the Post Up Podcast.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much
It's exciting.
for coming through, bro.
Anything NBA from an African perspective, that's where you find it.
Super duper.
Yeah, and it shows that you're passionate about that stuff. We can tell this guy's not just doing it because it's his job.
Yeah,
he loves this stuff.
He loves this stuff.
Totally gets it.
He plays ball
He does,
on weekends.
Right?
He
so
dresses
check out
check
out Kaunda's stuff. Thanks a lot for coming through.
No,
it was
guys.
so dope having you, my brother.
Thanks very much. And it's at the real Kaunda on Instagram.
And all you see is sneakers,
Yeah, you see a lot of sneakers.
Chilu, thanks a lot, man. It's good to be back at this.
Bless him, bro. Always good. Always good.
I have to say, I would never say this publicly again, but I missed you, my guy.
Yeah, man.
I missed you, man. I missed you. It was great hanging out.
Ditto.
Thanks for opening up your home once again for us.
No, man. It's been real, man. It feels like, it's like there's a vacuum in your life, and then when you're back into it, like,
There we go.
I just booked you guys a room.
God bless you, Kaunda. God bless your efforts, man.
Thanks for
Good luck
having me,
yourself.
guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.